I'm John Skinner, and this supplements my book, Fishing the Bucktail. I'm targeting weakfish on this trip, and I'm using the same rig that I use for fluke. At the end is a 1-ounce John Skinner S&S bucktail, and a foot ahead of that is a 3/0 Gamakatsu bait holder hook, and I'll be tipping both of those with Gulp and with squid strips. So I haven't targeted weakfish in well over 10 years, and I haven't caught any at all in more than 5 years. The stocks have certainly been down for quite some time. However, in this bay system, this is the Baconic Bay system, which covers quite an area of water between the forks of Long Island. There's been this summer run of weakfish, and they're on the small side, but they're allegedly pretty plentiful, and I wanted to do something different. And for me to get here is like I've got a launching ramp like a mile from my house, so this is a very convenient trip, and I wanted to give it a shot, but I'm going in absolutely clueless. Clueless in that I don't know the spots. I've just recently moved out this way. And I haven't fished for these summer weeks. I used to years ago fish for the big tide runners in the spring, but that was shallower water. It was casting and retrieving, and you see I actually made a cast there, and as we go along you're going to see that I won't be doing that anymore. I'll just be dropping it down. And this is also pretty deep water, 50, 60 feet and more in some places. And because like I said, I don't know the spots, I don't know the technique, I actually bought squid, which I never do. I haven't bought bait. I haven't used bait except for like live eels and some strip bait here and there, fluking. But for the most part, I have squid. I haven't used that in a long time. Not since the Gulp came out. I suspect I could catch them with just Gulp, but I really, don't want to have so many unknowns here. So I know they'll hit squid. That's why I went out and I got some. Okay, I'm just trying to stay deep here, just twitch it along, and I've got a little bit of a drift, so you can see I'm not retrieving, I'm just jigging again. I'm not sure what to do. You see I had a hit there, almost hooked up, so that's encouraging. So it doesn't feel like a porgy or a sea robin, so I'm kind of encouraged here. Okay, that's the target species. Alright, so they must be thick down there because I just started, and like I said, I really wasn't too sure what I was doing. For those not familiar with this fish, they're called weakfish because they say they have a weak mouth. Yeah, they have a weak mouth when they're small like this. When they're a little bit larger, it's not really an issue. Also called yellow fins, and you see the yellow fins on there. Tide runners is something they'll apply to the larger ones, and also sometimes they'll be called sea trout. They look quite a bit like the Florida trout, but they're different. The Florida trout, they'll jump, they'll hit poppers. These guys won't. Low and slow is usually the best way to go with these things. Until this season, I never had chart overlays on my fish finder, and I know a lot of people have that. But I bought a new fish finder, a Humminbird, and I was able to add a Navionics chip. So it's been very helpful to be on the new waters and be able to see the contour lines. So yeah, I added a different spare motor to the boat, so I'm just getting used to its issues. And yeah, I figured out how I'm going to be able to keep it up there, and I'm not going to turn it that way. But I'm a firm believer in spare engines. I don't care how good your main engine is. So I had a 4-horse on here, and I had an 8 sitting in the garage, so I swapped them out. So a new piece of equipment on this trip is that Tsunami Shield 3000 reel. These are quite well sealed. They've got a lot of seals in them, and what surprised me is, considering that they've got so many seals, it's a very smooth reel, very lightweight, excellent for the price. I think these things go around $100 or so. So, yeah, that's a great price for something like that. So, yeah, obviously these fish aren't pushing that reel at all, but yeah, it feels good so far. And that's on a Penn Battalion rod, 7 foot, rated 6 to 12 pound test line, which is like really the kind of tackle that you want to be using with these little guys. Just, you know, scale it down. So I'm going to try just the Gulp on this top hook because, yeah, I'm just trying to learn what's going on here. I really think the squid is probably not necessary, but yeah, I just wanted to be sure that if I was on fish, that I'd be giving them something they would definitely take. So you can see now after a couple of fish, yeah, I'm not casting anymore. I'm just dropping it straight down. Probably would have been even a little bit better off with my bait casting gear that I use for fluke. And I did get to use my fluke terminal rigs for this, with the bucktail on the bottom and then the teaser hook a foot above that. And when I upload this to YouTube, I will put affiliate links to the gear that I used in this. I'll put those in the description of the video. And I'm going to go back on some of the older videos that are still getting a lot of views and put links to that gear as well. Yeah, so this is a pretty good bite. And how did I find these fish? Somebody told me to go to a certain buoy in a certain bay, and yes, I took a ride, and yeah, here they are. One thing I did notice is that, and this is common with weakfish. I mean, I've done a lot of weak fishing in my time, so it was just a long time ago. The bite early was definitely the best, and then it started slowing up from there. But they kept hitting, and I kept catching fish even after the sun was up pretty high. Now, once I got to the general area, I did look for slopes. As with many fish, a lot of times weakfish are along the slopes, and what's nice about them, they have these large swim bladders, and it causes them to give off a pretty good echo on a fish finder. So keep a sharp eye on the fish finder, and you should be able to see them on there. And you know, just at that point, just a matter of taking drifts over where you're seeing the marks. So that last fish hit the plain Gulp on the hook, so yeah, probably the squid wasn't necessary. But, you know, even if you're going to use squid, it's a good thing to put Gulp on anyway, because you've got things stealing the bait down there. You've got porgies and sea robins and stuff, and they won't steal the Gulp as easily, so it's kind of a good idea to have Gulp and squid on there at the same time if you're going to be using bait. And clams are, I can't bring myself to go and just fish with clams. But apparently a lot of these fish are being caught by porgy anglers. They're fishing with clams, and they're catching these weak fish by bycatch. Yeah, they're such beautiful fish, so I'm going to try and, yeah, there we go, get those colors, try to get that sun angle right on there so you can see the purple and the yellow fins, and really a beautiful fish. So that spot was a little bit of a ride on the water, maybe 15-20 minutes from where I launched, and I know there are a couple of places much closer to where I launched that are supposed to hold some weak fish as well. So yeah, since I got a few, I decided to just pull out of there, leave those fish, and check out one of the other spots. And again, not knowing where to go, I went for a slope. I looked at what the drift direction was going to be. I started on the deep end, and knew that the current was going to push me up that slope, and see what was going to be along those edges. This one's feeling good, and not a porgy. I don't feel like a porgy. Not a sea robin. Not quite clear what it is. It's now I'm thinking it's probably weakfish. Looks like a weakfish, but it is not. So I haven't caught one of these since I was a little kid. This is a kingfish, and it's a really nice one at that. Now these are excellent eating, and so far I haven't kept anything on this trip. The weakfish limit is 1 fish at 16 inches, and yeah, I could have, a couple of those would have been keepers, but I didn't see the point in just taking home 1 fish. But now I've got this guy. If I can add like 1 more edible fish, I'll have a pretty good meal. So I'm going to put this one up in the cooler. And here's a still shot so you can see what that fish looks like if you're not familiar with it. Yeah, so now I want to catch something edible. If I get a keeper weakfish, that would be great, and I'll have a decent meal. And of course, when you put yourself in that situation, I think the likely outcome is you're not going to catch another edible fish. But you know, here we go. So I had a second rod rigged up with an 1.5 ounce bucktail, and this is the rod's a Tsunami 6-footer, an Airwave rated 6 to 12 pound test line, and I've got my Penn Clash 3000 on there, and yeah, it's a real comfortable combination, perfect for this kind of fishing. So this is a much better sized weakfish, and yep, okay, I'll add it to that kingfish and have a meal. So out comes the net, and I'm going to keep this guy. Okay, definitely worthy of a GPS mark just to give myself some idea. And I hope to learn this spot. This one's, I think I could be to this spot in the boat in 15 minutes from my driveway, so I'm real happy to catch something there. Well, I have a meal, but if I'm going to cook fish, I might as well cook enough to have leftovers and bring for lunch the next day. So, oh. I know what this one is right away. There's no question the way that tip is vibrating that this is going to be a porgy. And that's definitely a legal sized one, so I'll add that to my other 2 fish. And boy, at the beginning of this drift I didn't have a dinner, and now I've got a dinner with leftovers, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'm, as I mentioned, real happy that it's a close to home spot. So I'm about ready to wrap this trip up, but I wanted to go back up on that mark where I had the weakfish and see if I can get any others out of there. So this weakfish is going to earn its name. I can tell by looking at it. It's very lightly hooked. There's no way it's staying on there. So I'm just figuring it's going to shake off here. I could grab it and unhook it easily, but there it goes. It earned its weakfish name. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel.